Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Antofagasta in Chile. First, though, I have my holiday nails on. Because it's holiday season, they will get more and more festive as the weeks go on. So look forward to that. Second of all, as many of you know, Chile is a very long, narrow country here in South America. And it's always very precariously drawn in atlases, so I'm at a very precarious angle right now trying to film this, so I might be a little awkward. I apologize if it comes off that way. But let's talk about this incredible region here. Probably the most obvious thing you can tell from this map is that it has this long Pacific coastline like most of Chile does. And yes, there are some nice beaches on there, but most of the coastline here is full of really incredible cliffs and mountains. And that is because a branch of the Andes cuts right through here. You can kind of see part of its name right there. It is well, in English it's called the Chilean Coast Range. It is quite rocky and mountainous, really kind of shaped by Pacific waves crashing up against the shore. And the more inland you go, the more incredible the rock formations you find. There's some really cool national parks in this area. I think the most famous is on this little peninsula right here. We'll take a look at it on Google Earth. But as you can imagine, this area is very seismically active. Chile is one of the most seismically active countries in the world, along with like Japan, Turkey, parts of the United States. Mainly Alaska. But lots and lots of earthquakes happen here, and because of the rocks and things, landslides can also occur here. And because of the coastline, tsunamis also can occur here. But the more inland we go, the more interesting the land becomes. And we fully enter the Atacama Desert. And this is probably the most fascinating desert in the world, in my opinion. It is the driest desert in the world. And when you think ASMR Geographica, wouldn't the Sahara be the driest because it's all sand? Wouldn't Antarctica be the driest because it's just an ice shelf? Well, the dryness of deserts is like determined by the precipitation that falls. Sahara actually gets quite a bit of rain and snow sometimes. Antarctica gets quite a bit of rain and snow, as you can imagine. The Atacama does not. There are some places up here in this mountain range, this little branch of the Andes, where it gets quite a bit of snow. And that's only because these mountains are of such high elevations. They're stratovolcanoes, I should say, that they get snow on top of them quite frequently. But for the most part, this desert area here barely gets any rain, if any, some years. Some years it gets no rain whatsoever. The world's driest desert. These mountains I'm going to show you on Google Earth are absolutely fascinating because they rise up out of the ground very abruptly, creating this incredible mountain range. And in the valleys, these huge salt flats form. They're dotted all over here. There's so many. It makes sense because, you can't see. The world's largest salt flat is literally right here in Bolivia. So salt flats aren't like a strange, uncommon thing in this part of the world. which, if you don't know, is a like a field that's just salt. It's a salt flat. And the other thing that is created by this incredible hot, dry desert is the clearest skies in the world. And many astronomical organizations build research stations and telescopes in this part of Chile to take advantage of those clear skies, and we'll look at those too on Google Earth. But there's a lot to talk about in geography. I'm going to save it for Google Earth so I can actually show you all the cool pictures. Let's talk about the history of this region. So long ago, the indigenous peoples that would have lived here were along the coast here and up in the mountains. The people who lived along the coast were called the Chongos, and the people who lived in the mountains, surprisingly, were the Atacamans. Hence the name of the desert, right? They were eventually subjected by the Incas as they made their way down the mountains, conquering and subjugating as many peoples as they could. And they were forced to pay tribute to the Incas by giving them their crops and things. But that wasn't to last for long, as the Spanish would arrive and conquer the Inca Empire. And, the Spanish went to explore their new territory that they just won and found a whole lot of nothing down here. It's all rocks and more rocks and volcanoes and salt flats. Not a lot that the Spanish wanted. They didn't want rocks. They wanted gold, right? And silver too, but mostly gold. So they made it part of their area. It became part of the Audiencia Real de Chares. Didn't really do much with it, other than build missions and things for the people who lived here. Fast forward a bit to the independence movements of South America. Simón Bolívar made this region part of Bolivia, technically. The Littoral Department, it was called. And just kind of stayed that way until a few years later when nitrate was discovered, and lots of guano deposits too. Nitrate was a very, very valuable mineral that at that time was used for fertilizer. And when you're at a time period when you don't have processed foods, McDonald's, fertilizer for farms was extremely important. So the Chileans were like, well, technically this is our area, right? And Bolivia's like, well, on paper, it's our area. So they came to an agreement for this chunk here, Antofagasta, that it would be ruled by both Chile and Bolivia for economic purposes. They could both mine there and, share the profits and split the taxes on whatever they mined. And this worked for a little bit. It didn't really work because, splitting profits with two countries rarely worked this time. Also, Bolivia was besties with Peru up there. They had signed a secret treaty that said that if Chile ever came between them, they would both come together and fight Chile. Almost like a Molotov-Ribbentrop kind of thing. Not quite, obviously. But a secret agreement, nonetheless. And that came into play when, Chile decided to increase the taxes on Bolivia for the minerals that were mined here by 10 cents. And that was outrageous at that time, as you can imagine. And Bolivia and Peru were ready to declare war, and they did so when things were getting to a boiling point and the Chilean government invaded this region and occupied it. And the War of the Pacific broke out in 1879. And it was waged very violently, actually, until 1803 when they signed a treaty. Chile had won, and Chile got to keep the land. This is when Bolivia lost its coastline. Very convoluted agreement. After that doesn't really have much to do with Antofagasta, so you won't worry about it. Mainly, the news in Antofagasta have to do with economic issues and natural disaster issues in the 20th century, and I suppose 21st too. There was a huge railroad workers' strike in 1906 in Antofagasta that the government fired upon and massacred many people. As tragic as that is, that led to a lot of reform in terms of how unions can work peacefully with the government. So there was a very positive result of that, even though it was very tragic. Honestly, knowing Chile's history, if that had happened 50 years later, there wouldn't have been any reforms. It would have been just another day. But we're not going to talk about that either, because Allende didn't really leave his fingerprint in this region as strong as he did other places. The natural disasters that occurred here in the 20th century that I took note of, there were quite a bit, but the main ones was a huge mudslide in 1991. And in 1995, they had a 7.3 earthquake. Absolutely huge. Chile's had some of the largest, and actually, Chile had the largest earthquake in recorded history. So, it's not oh my goodness, Chile had a massive earthquake. Oh my gosh, what a surprise. That's not a surprise, but it's still, very devastating. Because then you've got the tsunamis that you can't really predict or completely prepare for. You have the unpredictability of the earthquakes, and with all of these rocky mountains around here, you can only predict mudslides so much. You can only anticipate so much, depending on how strong the earthquake is that hits. So it's always a concern. But for the most part, that is the history of this region. There's other little history things that I could have mentioned, but I'm going to change my camera angle and show them to you on Google Earth instead of just describing them to you, including what you can find here at Chuquicamata. Oh, I mispronounced that. Chuquicamata. Let's find out what's in this town. You guys really enjoy when I do the tablet with the lights off and you just see the shadows of my hands. So let's try that for this video. Here I've highlighted the Región Antofagasta here in Chile. Let's zoom out a bit more so you can see exactly where we are in the world if you're not quite sure where Chile is located. Here you can see South America, and this would be the Pacific Ocean coast, and Chile is all along the coastline here. The Antofagasta, you can see, is up in this desert area here. That is the Atacama Desert. So let's just start with the big city itself, Antofagasta. You can see on the coastline here, there are lots of things to see in Antofagasta, and I do encourage you to explore these areas on Google Earth yourself. But there's so many things I want to show you in other parts of this region that we're only going to spend a little bit of time here. Of course, we have to look at the gorgeous beach, which, look at this perfect little cove here. Create a beautiful beach. Let's take a look at a couple pictures. It's very nice. I bet that water is quite cold though. The Pacific Ocean, if you've never been in it, is a very cold ocean. So I bet it's nice on very hot days to dip in the cool water here. Yeah, if you're thinking, oh, a tropical paradise, not quite. We are near the Tropic of Capricorn, but that doesn't necessarily mean warm Pacific waters. I want to find my favorite pictures at the very end here. Nights swimming in the ocean. If you've never done that, you should experience that at some point. It's a whole different experience. If you saw some kind of weird statues, those are located further down here. Maybe I missed it. Yeah, I did. Right here. This cool guy here, which I couldn't find a lot about, but from what the looks of it, that's really pretty. Since there's lots of modern art here, that it's like a old retired crane that they put out as a sort of modern art-ish, like recycled art from the looks of it. But I guess you can see it from like everywhere on this beach area. And then what's really nice is that this whole area here is a beautiful park. Let's take a look. It's so pretty, just right in the middle of the town, running straight through, with of course a lot more incredible interactive modern art. It faces the ocean. Really beautiful spot for a city park. That looks like fun. Can you imagine all the little kids running around on that? Lots of cultural events as well. Wow, very cool. There's the big crane guy. Yeah, lots to see and do. There's some kind of festival happening there, or market maybe. Yeah, beautiful view of the Pacific Ocean. You can see the big mountains in the background too. Right? Very, very nice city. Let's head a little bit north to show you this airport. So here is the Antofagasta airport, way out of the way. But there's a very cool thing right here, which is, as this road is also delineating, it's the Tropic of Capricorn running right through here. So this cool modern art piece was built so that you could stand right on the Tropic of Capricorn. How fun is that? They're planting some cacti there. And yeah, you can go and stand. There's the big road that delineates it too. On the Tropic of Capricorn. Which I love things like that. I really want to go, like, you know, I can stand on the Prime Meridian in England and stuff like that. I love these little landmarks denoting our invisible lines of our planet. Look how excited this guy is. That would be me visiting the Tropic of Capricorn. But I think that's neat. As a geography nerd, that's the neatest thing. There we go. Right myself, and let's head over to this beautiful park over here. Here we go. Morro Moreno, it's called. And again, there are so many little slideshows in this park that you can look at. Highly recommend exploring Antofagasta region yourself. Because we're not going to make this into an hour-long video. That's probably going to be tomorrow's video, to be honest. But these slideshows, I think, don't really do the park justice, because I've seen some beautiful pictures online of this place at sunrise and sunset, and these mountains turn beautiful pinks and reds, reflecting off the ocean, I guess, or the sun reflecting off the ocean. And there's all kinds of hiking trails, as you can see, all over these mountains, so you can enjoy all of the colors of the landscape. You see, look at all the rocks turn rosy. So pretty. Very cool. Alright, where should we go next? Here, before we head into Bolivia by accident, you can see in the mountains here, all these white dots there are salt flats. There's some pretty big ones. around up here. And I can't get distracted. I can't get lost. We're going to go up here. See, there's Solar de Uyuni up there, the world's largest sun flat. But we're not going to look at that. We're going to head over here. How big that is. Oops, I dropped a pin. Go away. Please stop. Okay. There. We are going to look at... Gotta make sure I find it. I don't want to get lost. I can already feel myself getting lost. Great. There it is. Chuquicamata. Saying it very carefully. Chuquicamata is home to the world's largest copper mine. Because what I didn't mention in history is that nitrates are out, copper is in. As you can imagine, we use copper in all kinds of technologies. This is the world's largest copper mine by output. And it's also the second deepest pit mine in the world. There's one in Utah that's deeper. So this is number 2. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it must be so impressive to see in person. There's a little shrine there. My goodness. It is so, so deep. And what's neat is that here on Google Earth, look at that terrifying playground, yikes. On Google Earth, you can actually see how deep it is. I zoom in on this pit. Look at, like, it has to render how deep it is. It's absolutely massive. My goodness, that's a big hole in the ground. There's a couple more around. And there are copper mines all over Antofagasta. But this is by far the most impressive, massive one. Incredible. What human engineering can do nowadays, right? Amazing. Let's go and look for here. Oh, I gotta show you the mountains. They're up here. This landscape. Look at, like, big old pimples. These big old volcanoes. Let's look at it in 3D. Look at these beasts just popping out of the ground. It really is just like Mother Earth's T-zone, right? So many volcanoes. Let's take a look. Actually, if we go further south, they get bigger. But I'm going to get out of this mode because I'm going to get lost. We're going to wind up in Argentina. Let's look over here. Look at that one. My goodness. I'm trying to find some cool volcano slideshows, but to be honest, they're all pretty cool. So let's take a look at Volcantatio. Let's see if we can find any cool. That's a great photo. Oh wow, there's some hot springs here. So they're going to take a minute to load because I have not tapped on this volcano. Look, there's some little friends. It looks like a vicuña. Most of these slideshows you can see lots of wild llamas. Just mountains just sticking out of the landscape. Oh, that's so haunting. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, wow. It's like Dalal here in Ethiopia. Just how, like, burned and rancid the ground is from all the geological happenings just underneath the surface. So neat. Let me see. Here we go. These are the ones I wanted to show you. These twins over here named Pedro and Pablo. I think Pedro has the best slideshow. Sorry, Pablo. But I like this slideshow because there's lots of, like, far away shots, so you can just see these mountains sticking up out the ground over very smoky today. And yeah, see all of the beautiful wonders. Look how high up the sky is. I mean, they're like 22,000 feet or something. Like, they are huge volcanoes. There's a llama. Oh, he looks stranded on that island. But absolutely amazing, amazing mountain range here. It goes further south into Chile if you want to explore outside this region and go see Ojos del Salado. Oh my gosh, look at this. Is that a cactus or moss? What is that? So neat. But yeah. All the slideshows of all the volcanoes here are fascinating. And then we can head over to, don't want to get lost. Past these. Yeah, down here. The Flamenco National Park, which means little pink birds, little flamingos, and more incredible rock formations and I guess geysers and things. Did you know that there's only like 5 countries that have geysers? And Chile's one of them. Look at that. Look at this geyser. Insane. The mineral buildup around it. That comes from hot water pouring out and falling and drying up in the heat, creating this little crystal castle. How awesome is that? But over here, we have a very special town called San Pedro de Atacama, which is a very old town with lots of cool history, and it's a big tourist spot, and I'll show you why. It's not just the incredible old buildings here, and I bet you the food's amazing. I bet you the cultural events here are just like you can find nowhere else, right? Because it's just tucked away in the mountains here. So neat. But there's a lot to see beyond it. First of all, I want to show you Bukhara tour, which is where the indigenous Atacamans lived. This was their big central town. And look at this archway they did, highlighting the mountains. That's so beautiful. And you can see how these people once lived up high in the cliffs, creating beautiful works of rock. You can see the remains of their homes up there. Just look at this. Maybe a well or something. Yeah, lots of amazing ruins to explore here. Yeah, what do you think that was? Maybe something astronomical. They can keep track of the days. It's so amazing. Seeing old towns like this. But the rocks here create some very interesting formations, the most famous being the Valley of the Moon, Valle de la Luna, named so because this is one of those spots on Earth that doesn't look like it's on Earth. It looks like an alien world. The more you explore it, also that's a cool statue there for the indigenous peoples. The more like alien you feel, because these rocks don't look like any place else you'd see on Earth. Big old caves. And you can pretend you're an astronaut exploring all of these twists and turns. This very cool hike in the Valley of the Moon. And then enjoy a nice shady lunch. But all these slideshows are really fascinating. Let me see if there's one more that was interesting. Let's see. This one's pretty neat. The Devil's Throat. Very perilous hiking trail. Look at that. So cool. But yeah. Fun. There's all kinds of stuff to see. But this area is famous not just for the incredible hiking, for the archaeology, but there is some space tourism as well. In these little towns, they built little observation spots. So you can see the night sky. And this is not photoshopped. This is what the sky looks like in this part of Chile. Look, they painted this one like R2D2. And yeah, not a Photoshop. That's just a photograph with a camera of the beautiful night sky and the Milky Way. Can you imagine? I would absolutely love to spend a night here. To see the moon crystal clear. Actually see the entirety of the Milky Way. I've lived in cities my whole life. I've only seen the Milky Way one time. In Missouri. But it must be incredible to experience. Oh my gosh. Little R2D2. One of my favorite Star Wars characters. Yeah, so they have these little telescopes and observatories here that I guess you can just like rent out and just enjoy the night sky. Surely they have guided tours and everything with astronomers telling you everything is. And we're going to close this out with one more place that I wanted to show you. But I gotta find it because it's a little bit hidden. And it's over here on this mountain. And I told you that many space organizations build observatories and telescopes here. As you can see, there's one over here and one over there. But the European the European Space Organization has built the world's largest telescope here. And take a guess at what the name is. Take a guess. It is. Is it going to pop up? There it is. The Very Large Telescope. Or the VLT. The Very Large Telescope. The world's largest telescope. Let's take a look at it. It's built on top of this mountain here. So this is all one big telescope complex. You can see there's just a puny one over there, just a little insignificant. That is a massive telescope. This is unreal. This is the most powerful telescope in the world. That's not like the James Webb or anything that's already out in space. This is the most powerful on the planet. And again, not a Photoshop. That's just what the sky looks like here. Look at it. It's so big. It's very large, actually. The inside's a little terrifying. I don't know. Seeing stuff like that, it bothers me. There it is up high on the mountain. But they've got a little nice green space here. Place for the astronomers to relax. And enjoy the barren desert around them. But let's end this video here. I guess you can just visit it. It's so cool. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing, and you're definitely not going to want to miss tomorrow's video because we are heading off to Northern Ireland. And if you thought these rock formations were cool, if you thought the Valley of the Moon was the most unnatural, beautiful rocks that Mother Earth could create, just you wait, because we're gonna go look at what's probably the most famous geosite, rock site in not just Ireland, not the United Kingdom, not Europe, but the whole entire world. It's so beautiful. If you know, you know. But if you don't, then you gotta subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good